Let me ask you something. What would it actually take for one of you to walk away from tech without putting the whole household at risk? If you were in a dual income tech household, I would bet this conversation has already come up, even if it was quiet. One partner is burned out, or wants to start something of their own, or wants to be home more while the kids are small. And the other partner does the silent math and gets scared because that second paycheck is large and the mortgage does not care about anyone's burnout. So here's the reframe I want to start with, because it changes everything. Leaving tech or stepping back or switching fields is not a financial emergency. It is a financial event. Emergencies are things that happen to you. Events are things you plan for. And households that pull this off are not the ones with the most money. They're the ones who treated the decision like the planning problem it actually is. Today I'm going to walk through how to model the real income gap, how to time the exit around your equity instead of into a wall, how to stress test your balance sheet before anyone gives notice, and the specific moves that make a transition viable. Let's get into it. The first job is to turn a scary unknown into a real number, because most couples never actually calculate the gap. They just feel it. And a feeling is impossible to plan against. Start with what the departing income really nets the household, not the gross, the take home. A second high income in a dual tech household is taxed at your top marginal rate, something I covered in the piece on why two tech incomes create a tax problem neither income creates alone. So the real take home is smaller than the headline salary. Now subtract the costs that only exist because both of you work. For a young family, that is often a big chunk of childcare. When one parent steps back, some of that cost goes away with the paycheck. So the true gap is frequently a lot smaller than the salary it comes from. Then size that gap against your fixed costs, not your total spending. What does it cost to run your life at the floor? The mortgage, insurance, food, the non-negotiables. That floor, minus the one income that remains, minus the costs that disappear, is the monthly gap you actually have to solve for. And now it is a number you can fund instead of a fear you carry around. Now the mistake I see tech employees make more than any other: walking out the door days before a major vest. Unvested RSUs and unexercised options usually disappear the moment you leave. So timing is not a small detail here. It is often the single largest financial decision in the entire plan. So map your vest calendar before you pick a date. A cliff that is 4 months away can be worth more than the next full year of the gap you're trying to fund. There is no medal for leaving in March when waiting until the May vest completely changes the math. Your exit date is a lever, and for most people, it is the most powerful one they have. And the same logic applies to the equity you already hold. A big chunk of your net worth is sitting in concentrated company stock. A planned transition is exactly the right moment to diversify some of it into the cash that funds your gap. I've made the case before that holding a concentrated position is not a strategy. A career change turns that abstract risk into a concrete opportunity. And if you sell deliberately, ideally in a lower income year once one salary has stopped, you can soften the tax hit at the same time. Before the decision is final, run the household through a deliberate stress test. The whole point is to find the breaking points on paper while they are still cheap to fix, instead of discovering them after the income has already stopped. Start with runway. How many months of that gap can your cash and accessible savings cover without touching retirement accounts and without being forced to sell at a bad moment? For a transition, I want you thinking bigger than the usual emergency fund, because here you are funding a known gap on purpose. A full year of gap coverage in cash is a completely different position, financially and psychologically, than 3 months. Then pressure test the things that only show up when a paycheck stops. Health insurance is the big one, and it got more expensive this year. Your employer coverage ends, and your options are COBRA, which lets you keep your plan for a limited window, but at the full unsubsidized price, or a marketplace plan, where the enhanced subsidies that made coverage affordable were scaled back for 2026. Price your actual replacement coverage before you leave, not after. And do the same for anything else tied to your job, including your ability to refinance a mortgage, which lenders judge on current income. Once you can see the gap, the timing, and the runway, this stops being a leap of faith and becomes a short list of deliberate moves. Build the cash bridge first, on purpose, while both incomes are still flowing. Point your vesting RSUs and your bonuses at a dedicated transition fund instead of letting them quietly dissolve into everyday spending. This is the highest and best use of that lumpy equity income, and it is so much easier to do in the months before the change than to wish you had done it after. A transition funded by stock you were overexposed to anyway is 2 problems solved with 1 move. Then sequence the year for taxes and benefits. The year 1 income stops is often a natural window to realize gains at a lower rate or to make moves that were just too expensive at your combined peak. Lock in anything that depends on 2 incomes, like a refinance, before the change rather than after. And give the whole plan a real runway. 6 to 12 months of lead time so your exit date can land on the right side of a vest and your cash bridge can be fully built before you need it. None of this requires being rich. It requires deciding early and acting while you still have 2 engines running. So here's the bottom line. One of you wanting to leave tech is not the thing that breaks a financial plan. Walking into it blind is. When you model the real gap, time the exit around your equity, stress test the balance sheet, and build the cash bridge while both incomes are still flowing, a career change stops being a threat. It becomes what it should be, a decision you get to make on purpose. If you want to talk through your specific situation, the link to schedule a call is in the description. And if you haven't subscribed to Vested yet, my weekly newsletter for Bay Area tech professionals, the link for that is down there too. I'll see you next week.